Hi everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Dawn Jarvis Show, the podcast where I talk to leaders, professionals, and business owners who are part of my diverse nurse network about how they manage their business and their well-being. It's brought to you by dawnjarvis.com. Today, my guest is Keith Blakemore-Noble, and we are discussing the masks we wear. Described as the world's #1 fear strategist, Keith has successfully worked with people in their fears for over a decade. During this time, he has developed a deep understanding of the masks we all wear, where they come from, and how and why we can remove them. Keith and I know each other from a mastermind we are both in, and we've been on a couple of courses together. And it's really great to see you, Keith. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Dawn. It's really great to be here. I am fantastic, fabulous as always. Thanks. How's your good self?
I'm really, really good, and it's really good to see you. I'm absolutely fascinated because you're a hypnotist, aren't you? But have you always
Yes.
been a hypnotist? How did you get to be? How did you get from where you were to where you are now, helping people with their fears?
Good question. Excuse me. So I've been doing this for about 12 years. So I've been a hypnotist for 12 years. Before that, I worked in IT for many, many, many years.
Oh wow.
Interestingly, my sister reminded me, I'd completely forgotten, but my sister reminded me once I became a hypnotist, she reminded me that when I was like in my early teens, like 12, 13 sort of years old, apparently I was back in those days, I was fascinated by hypnosis. I used to go around pretending I could hypnotize people, and I would tell anyone who would listen, I would tell them that one day I was going to learn about hypnosis, find out how it works. I was going to become a hypnotist. And I completely forgot about all of that
That's
and ended up
amazing.
becoming a hypnotist.
That's amazing. How did
Yeah.
you go from IT though? Because that isn't very similar to hypnosis, and I'm imagining that there's the IT guys I met in the NHS. I couldn't imagine them something like, oh yeah, on the side I do a bit of
Yeah.
hypnosis. I couldn't. No, that's not what I. That's not how I imagine it. So talk to me about that.
Cool. Well, I I was I was in IT for many years. I used to be painfully shy. I was terrified of speaking with strangers,
Okay.
which is why IT was a brilliant career for that
Yeah.
because everyone's hidden away and you're doing it all from behind your computer. Wonderful. But I mean, I became rose as high as fellow of the British Computer Society.
Wow.
The only position higher than that is Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. And I
Wow.
I did apply for the role of Bill Gates, but I was told it's already taken, so I just stick with where I was. But once you in any career, once you reach a certain point,
Mhm.
it's sort of no longer what you know, but it's who you know that gets you
Mhm.
the next roles. And I
Mhm.
mean, we're not talking about nepotism or anything. We're just talking about you make the network connections because when it's a high enough level, people kind of want to know that they can trust bringing this person on board, and you do that
Mhm.
through the connections you make. But when you're terrified of speaking with strangers, you
Mhm.
tend not to make many of these
Oh,
connections.
wow.
So my career sort of plateaued. Social life was, as you can imagine, fairly sparse. How can you
Mhm.
make friends when you can't even speak to strangers and get to know people?
Mhm.
And one year, this was kind of just before social media really took off. I was a member of an online community through a website, and I've been chatting with them all for ages behind the computer, which is brilliant. And in those days, I lived in Wokingham, just outside Reading,
Uh-huh.
just to the west of London.
Uh-huh.
And somebody suggested, because it was like November time, somebody suggested, hey, most of us live either in London or within easy access of London.
Mhm.
Why don't we get together and have a Christmas party? Normally, if somebody suggested that in those days, I would have found a million and one excuses not to be able to go.
Mhm.
But I thought, hey, you know what? I know these people. We've been talking for months, tapping away on the computer screen. How hard can it be? And I
Yeah.
went there and I found exactly how hard it can be.
Oh
Because
dear.
it's one thing tapping away behind the keyboard because there wasn't even video back then. It was all done, all typing. You maybe occasionally
Yeah.
post a photo, but that would be about it.
Uh-huh.
One thing doing that. It's quite another walking into a room full of what are effectively strangers and
Mhm.
having to have real time face to face conversations. That's very different thing. I ended up, to cut a long story short, I ended up locking myself in a cubicle in the gents and had a full-on panic attack.
Oh.
It was about half an hour before I'd calmed down enough to be able to flee the venue. Didn't even stop to collect my coat because that would have meant speaking to somebody, and at that point that was just impossible. Ran through London. Anyone who knows me knows I am not built for running. I don't run. There's never a need to run. There's always another something coming along. But I ran. I was so terrified. Sat on the train. I didn't start calming down properly until the train was pulling out. And I remember at that point thinking, clearly remember saying to myself, you can't go through life like this. What is your life going to be like in 10 years' time if you don't do something? It's going to suck because it's not very good now and it's just going to get worse. You can't carry on like this. You have to do something. By coincidence, or whatever you want to call it, a few weeks later, a friend pretty much dragged me along to a personal development seminar, a 2.5-day weekend seminar in London. It was a free event, so obviously they were making their money by selling training on the back end. That's absolutely fine. It's a valid way of doing it. I went to it, made some progress and made some developments through it. And I was thinking, this stuff seems to work. Interesting. I went along as a kind of an open-minded skeptic. It's like, well, I don't know. We'll see. I'm open to seeing what happens. Who knows? I felt myself making some progress there. And I was thinking, you know what? I'm going to sign up. I'm going to learn this stuff, this hypnosis and NLP, whatever it's called. I've never come across it before. So I'm going to learn this hypnosis and this NLP, and I'm going to use this to sort myself out and then skyrocket my career. So me being me, I just thought, if I'm going to do this, I'm just going to do the whole lot. Bought every course that they did. So right the way up to train the trainer level in NLP and hypnosis, and train to become a professional speaker, and all because it was all part of the bundle that they had. Trained in it all, made lots of breakthroughs, completely got over that old fear of speaking with strangers, conquered other stuff as well. And I was thinking, I quite enjoy this. I seem to be quite good at it because in the classes I kept getting complimented by everyone, and not everyone complimented each other, but I always got compliments like, maybe I'm good at this. Helped friends with it, always helped them get great results. And I was thinking, it would be nice to do this as a career because I've been in IT for like 20 years. You kind of get a bit bored. It'd be nice to do it, but I had a high-paid IT job. I had all the outgoings that went with the high salary. I couldn't afford the pay cut. And then the most magnificent stroke of luck. My boss called me into the office one day and said, really sorry, Keith, because of the financial situation, we have to make you redundant. Here's a wheelbarrow full of cash, never come back. It's like, okay, I'm a coach now. I'm going to set my business up. I never even thought, let's see what IT roles are. I just thought, right, I'm doing this now. And that was 12 years ago. And the rest is history, as they say.
Oh, that's an amazing story. That is an amazing story. And there's a couple of things I wanted to say about that. First of all, how brave of you to sort of go into quite a panicky situation and decide that that you needed to do something, because it'd be quite easy, because you're working in IT, not to do anything about that whatsoever. So, full marks to you for doing that. Secondly, you have to embrace your opportunities, and it's amazing when you think about these things, isn't it? That then that something will happen, and it's been my experience too, because I've got a similar story in that I wanted to have my own business, and then I was laid off, and I thought, okay, and I like you, I didn't think, oh yeah, let's go and get another job, but like you, I couldn't give up my job because of the outgoings that go with the job, and I live in London like you did. I know you don't now, but and then think something will happen, and it's spooky, actually, isn't it, really, how things sort of like just manifest, for want of a better word.
It's interesting how these things happen, and it's also interesting how opportunities are always all around, but it's whether we're ready for them, because that was actually the second time in my career that my job had been made redundant. The first time went to a new job in IT, but the second time I was in a position where I could go, you know what, it's time for a complete career change.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing with opportunities are always around in all sorts of forms. It's just we don't always notice them because we're not in a position to be able to take advantage of them. We don't have what's needed to take advantage, or we're not even thinking about it, so they
Mm-hmm.
pass us by.
Yeah.
Once we do have whatever it is that would let us take advantage of these things, we become more aware of it, we become more open to them, and we start to see them more. It's so often people, oh wow, that was lucky that happened. It's like, well,
Yeah.
that sort of thing has always been happening. It's just this time you noticed it because you're in a position to be able to take it. It's like that whole thing with a car. You know, if you get a car of a certain make, model, and color,
Mm-hmm.
all of a
Yes.
sudden like 10% of the cars on the road are that exact make, model, and color. It's like, what?
Absolutely.
Did everyone just suddenly go out and buy my car? No, they were there yesterday, but that make, model, and color was of no importance to you previously. So your mind paid them no attention. Now
Yeah.
it is important because, oh, that could be my car. And it's same with opportunities. When we're in a position to be able to take advantage of them or to do whatever, fulfill whatever that opportunity is offering, we notice them. When we're not in that position, when we're not looking for those sorts of things, when that's not relevant to us, we just don't spot them. So it's not that, oh, wow, that was lucky. An opportunity suddenly came along at just the right time. It's more a case of, okay, opportunities have always been coming and going. Now I was able to take advantage of it because I was in the right place at the right time to take advantage of the one that came along. If I hadn't been, if it maybe I mean, suppose it had been like 5 more years before I took the plunge and learned all of these tools, that redundancy would have happened. I would have ended up attempting to find another job in IT and
Mm-hmm.
then got into a position of, oh, actually, now I've got these skills. Oh, maybe it would be time to dot, dot, dot. Who knows what would have happened at that point? But it's, I mean, I've heard luck. Good luck has been described as preparation meets opportunity. And that's,
Absolutely. I love the way you describe it, and I love the way it's that you have to be in the right mindset, and that's what you
mm,
help people with, isn't it? So sort of
yeah,
like think about
absolutely.
what
Yeah.
they want to do, and then think about the right mindset to sort of
Mm,
like actually embrace those opportunities. So that's
yeah.
brilliant. So we're discussing masks, and
Yeah.
when I was preparing for I was thinking about as the masks we wear, and I have some thoughts, but I'd like to sort of like ask you really, when you're talking about the masks we wear, what's your understanding of that and where they come from?
Cool. And please do share your thoughts as well. I'd love to know what your thoughts are. We have a good an
Yes.
interesting discussion about that too. Well, first thing I should point out when I'm talking about masks, this is nothing to do with COVID. Absolutely nothing to
Nice
do
one.
with COVID.
Yeah.
um, it is, however, about the masks, the metaphorical masks that we all wear. Every
Mhm,
single one of us wear
mhm,
metaphorical masks, and not just one mask, but we often have layer upon layer of masks. And we've been wearing them for so long that we don't even realize we're wearing them. We're not even aware that we've got them on. And we're hiding from the world behind these masks. And by continuing to hide behind them, we deny the world the experience of our true selves. We deny our true selves experience that of the world. It becomes a much more enclosed space, much lonelier space, much less enjoyable space. And it cuts us off from so many opportunities, so many connections. We foolishly believe that we're protecting ourselves when in fact we're doing the exact opposite.
mhm.
And I know a lot of people will be listening to this and watching this going, what's he on about, crazy fool? I'm not wearing a mask. But those are the exact masks that are so dangerous because we've been wearing them for so long.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
I
I mean, where they come from, I could I can probably best illustrate with a story if we've got a couple
mhm.
of minutes.
Yeah, we have.
So come with me, if you will, on a journey back to when I was young and the world was black and white. It was a
Uh-huh.
long time ago. So yeah, I grew up just me, my mum, my dad, my sister, and the radio for company
Mhm.
in a farmhouse, pretty much in the middle of nowhere for the first few years. And that was my world. It was kind of just the four of us and the radio and occasional visitors. Once I reached the age of 5, we moved to a small village. That's where I went to school. Turn up at school, there's loads of huge numbers of children. I mean, it wasn't particularly large numbers, but to me, it was a huge number of children. And of course, they'd all grown up with each other in the village and the surrounds. They all knew each other. They were all playing. And I thought that looks fun. I want to join in. And of course, they wouldn't let me, because who's this stranger coming in? They wouldn't let me, and that kind of hurt, as you can imagine. And that's where it started. Started putting masks on, started pretending not to be who I was, in the hopes that they might accept me. And that set up a pattern which went through primary school, secondary school, university life, career. Growing up in the 70s and 80s with probably no real role models, always hiding facets of me. Anything that I thought somebody might dislike about me, I would hide behind a mask, pretend not to be that person, pretend not to like those things, pretend not to think those things, pretend not to be those ways, just hiding it all in a desperate attempt to be liked. And that's why we wear masks, because we all like to be liked. And for me, it kind of came to a head in my mid-20s. I got married. Yay! That was lovely. And first couple of years, my wife and I were really happy together. But after a while, we kind of realized marriage didn't seem to be the bed of roses that we'd been promised. That it wasn't the happy ever after that the fairy tales all talk about. I was trying to work out, why is it not working? Until one day it suddenly hit me. Of course, my marriage isn't working. I'm gay. And that's the danger of these masks. I'd spent so long hiding every facet of me that people might dislike. I lost touch with who I actually was. I lost touch with who I was. And that's the danger of these masks. We try and hide facets of us, try and hide away until we lose sight of who we are. And then life takes weird turns as we end up trying to live a life that isn't us. And I touched on why people why we all wear masks. We've all got a fundamental human need. That's the need to be liked. Everybody likes to be liked. Nobody likes to be disliked. Not really. But the reality is, I mean, even Christ, Buddha, Prophet Muhammad, all of them had their detractors. Every single one of them did. And it's okay. I mean, if it's good enough for them to have people who dislike them, I figure it's good enough for the rest of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's absolutely right. And thank you so much for sharing that story. I think that actually demonstrates perfectly where masks come from, and a realization that it's okay to be whoever you are, and that you don't have to pretend. And when I was thinking about masks, I was thinking about the sort of persona that we put on her. So I had a corporate persona. I'm from the Midlands. I've lived in London for a long time, but I haven't really lost my accent. But but sometimes people who I grew up with listen to me like, who are you? So it's sort of like and then depending on the whether you're a partner, whether you're a work colleague, whether you're you have children, or whatever situation you're in, there is that you sort of like put this face forward that you think's appropriate and that think's acceptable. And it takes a lot of courage actually to sort of like not go with the flow necessarily, to say something that doesn't agree with groupthink. And I think it's easier to sort of like accept the mask for it. And sort of like, you talked about, sort of like you're awakening about your sexuality. That's a massive thing. And you're not the first person, particularly, we're about the same age. So you're not the first person. I was in nursing, and I always tell this story. When I started nursing, the nurses that I started with were heterosexual and married, and sort of like 20 years later, they were not, because the
Yeah.
world has changed and
Yeah.
things became more acceptable. I'm not saying all of them, but some of
No,
them
but I know what
definitely
you mean. Yeah.
definitely went through an
Yeah.
experience where they felt okay to say who they were, and that was
Yeah.
and that was absolutely fine. And some of them got married, and some of and some of them didn't, but some of them did.
Yeah.
And then they were able not to be married anymore, and that's men and women. So there you go. And that's and I think that's great, but I think also it takes a bit of confidence, doesn't it, and self-acceptance, maybe, to be able
Very
to
much so.
be your true self. And I guess
Exactly.
what you're saying, why that can be damaging and dangerous for your self-esteem, and sort of I'm imagining that not being yourself, wearing a mask, could really affect your health and well-being and your
Yeah.
self-esteem. What do you think, Keith?
I would absolutely agree that when we hide behind these masks, when we don't allow ourselves to be ourselves, it does get damaging, draining. It will have an impact on our health. It has an impact on our happiness as well, because we're kind of settling for second best, as it were. We're kind of living a life that isn't us. And we've got so much, spending so much energy portraying this character, pretending the mask is real.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes a lot of energy out of you. And I mean, if there's a facet of you that you're hiding away because you think people will judge you for it, won't like you, you've got, I mean, you know what it's like. If you come across something that you really like, you get enthusiastic about it, you get joy, and you want to share that. If you feel you're going to hide that away from everyone, that gets really, really damaging,
Mm-hmm.
and it affects your self-esteem. It hurts. um there's one thing that you did mention, which I think is important to touch on. You talked about personas,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes when I talk about masks, people will say, oh, but if I'm in corporate, am I wearing a mask? Should I get rid of that mask? The key thing is the difference between wearing a mask and using different facets of your personality.
Mm-hmm.
So an example might be a CEO.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a CEO who just happens to also be a parent. So
Mm-hmm.
the CEO at work, they have to have a certain level of ruthlessness, because business is business. I mean, even in the most heart-centered and sort of businesses, you have to have some level
Mm-hmm.
of ruthlessness to protect your business, to protect your customers, and to enable your business to grow, even if it's just to defend yourself against attacks from rival businesses. It's just the way business is. So you have to have this certain level. It may be this: you have to win, go all out to win at all costs. You always have to win, because if you don't, your business collapses. You're going to make everybody. You're going to get rid of everybody. Not a
Mm-hmm.
nice thing to have to do. So you've got all of this. So you've got this constant drive to win, to always win. Win at all costs. I don't mean at all costs, as in do it, but you know what I mean. Do everything you can to win, come what may.
Mm-hmm.
When that CEO goes home, and their young child wants to play them at Snap, for example, or whatever, do you think the CEO is going to have that same win at all costs ruthlessness,
No.
or do you think they're going to kind of exactly? Does that mean that in one case or another they're wearing a mask? Not necessarily. It's just they're bringing those aspects of their personality which best suit that situation.
Mm-hmm.
But that is very different from wearing a mask. A mask might be if the CEO pretends that they're not a parent.
Yeah.
That is when you're wearing a mask. Or in their home life, they pretend that they're just, no, I'm not a CEO of a company. I just work in lower management. I'm just, that's when you're wearing a mask. It's when you're hiding facets of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it's a mask, and that's when it's damaging. There's nothing wrong with playing to your strengths and bringing your strengths in all the different areas of life. We all do it, and rightly so, because there are different times you need different aspects. But it's the masks are when you're actively hiding part of you away, um,
Mm-hmm.
and to to take a business analogy of that, it would be, just imagine you have a business, and just imagine you've got a shop, and inside you have wonderful gifts, wonderful treasures, so many awesome, amazing treasures that people want, that people need. But you're scared that people might judge you for them.
Yeah.
So you cover the windows so nobody can see in and see what's there. You maybe cover the sign so nobody can see the name of the shop. You bolt the door so that people can't accidentally stumble in and see what's inside and laugh at it. And then you hide the shop down in back alley somewhere. Then you wonder why you don't get any customers. Because nobody can see what you have to offer. They're all going to the shops which are displaying what they have in their windows. They're being attracted to the shops that have what they want. They're not looking at shops and going, ha ha, look at that shop selling things I don't want. They're busy going, oh, I like that. Let's go see what they have. And it's the same when we remove our masks, an amazing thing happens. We get to be ourselves. Yes, some people will dislike us for it, but who cares? They were going to dislike us sooner or later anyway, because even when you do wear masks, eventually the cracks appear, people can catch glimpses behind it. But when we go without the masks, when we stand for who we are, we attract to us people who like us for who we are. The people who like us, the people who need what we have to offer, the people who believe what we believe, we attract them because they can see us and they go, oh, I like Dawn. I like what she stands for. I want to hang out with her. There are things we could do together. It's a whole lot easier being yourself than trying to pretend to be somebody else. And even more importantly, when we do that, when we remove our masks, when we just stand there being ourselves, we give other people permission to be themselves. We inspire other people. We let other people realize, hey, I'm not the only one who thinks this way. I'm not the only one who likes that. I'm not the only one who does that. Huh, maybe it is okay to be me. Maybe I can be me. I don't have to pretend. And we start to create this amazing ripple. It goes way beyond way beyond our imagination, affecting and helping and influencing people we will never ever meet or even hear of. But they become positively influenced because we've stood and gone, hey, yep, this is me. Hey, this is me. This is what I do. This is what I think. Like it or don't, that's cool. This is me. So by removing our masks, not only do we improve our own lives, we give others permission to be who they are and improve their lives in the process as well. It's a scary thing. I don't for one second deny that removing our masks and showing ourselves to the world can be scary, but it's also very liberating, very empowering for ourselves and for others as well.
That's amazing, Keith. I love that. Love the way you describe that. And actually, it's allowing people to know you, isn't it? And to get the best from you. And the right people will come to you because they align with your values and the way you see the world and things like that. And that's important. And it can be, and to be authentic, I think, is really important too. So we've talked about where masks come from. We've talked about why they can be damaging to ourselves, maybe to others, and the benefits of removing them. It'd be really good to think about, how we can remove them and how you help people to remove the mask so they can sort of like go on and live a more positive life.
Sure. I mean, first thing to bear in mind is it's taken us our entire life to get where we are, and that includes accumulating all of those masks that we've developed over the years. Don't worry if it takes you a little bit of time to get rid of those masks. That's absolutely fine. And always remember, we're all of us are always a work in progress. We're always evolving. We're always changing. Masks, like so many other things, it's almost like onions. You peel off one and there's another one under. Peel it off and there's another layer. And that's absolutely fine. Even just being aware that you might be wearing masks is a great starting point, because you can't do something about a situation unless you have an awareness of that situation.
Yeah.
And even just opening up to accept the possibility that, maybe I'm wearing a mask. I wonder. Never thought of that before. Maybe I am wearing masks. Opening up to that possibility is a great first step. And we'll already start to loosen masks. And we may already start to see them just by being aware of the concept of masks. We can start to see some of the masks that we're wearing. Actually, I do always avoid talking about X, Y, and Z, even though I like it. Now that's interesting. You know what? Maybe I'm going to start standing up for myself. Maybe I'm going to start talking about that. Maybe next time somebody says something I disagree with, maybe I'm going to say, actually, it's a great starting point for our awareness of masks. There's all manner of things that we can do. We could talk about this for ages. I'm conscious of time. What I will do is I will share one simple question that we can ask ourselves, which really does have a powerful impact on our masks and really helps us to identify what's going on. Very simple question. My question is this: who were you before society told you who you should be?
Ooh.
Who were you before society told you who you should be?
That's a killer question, man.
I said it was a simple question. I didn't say it was going to be easy to answer.
Wow.
But who were you before society told you who you should be? Because that is the person underneath all of those masks. When you start getting back in touch with that person, start releasing them from the imprisonment of the masks.
I'm loving that question.
Yeah.
I'm loving that question. Loving that. So, and I'm gonna have a think about that. And I don't think it's a question you can answer off the top of your head, really, is it? But it's something that has to be thought about.
And it may be a question that you may have to spend weeks, months, years examining. But it's a question that's very worthwhile examining, because even if you don't have any answers, just by pondering that question, starting to get in touch with glimpses of who it is that's under the mask, that's when you can start to loosen the masks, start to peel them away, start to remove them, even if it's just for short periods of time. Even if you only remove some of those masks in occasions in your life where you feel it's safe to do, and then pop it back on for a bit and then remove it again and try having it removed just a little bit longer. It all helps. It's all different people react in different ways. Different things work for different people. But the more you start to become aware of who it is that's under those masks, and the more you start to let that person out and start to enjoy what that person enjoys, that person is you. Let's remember. The more we do that, the easier it will then become. The next step becomes easier, and it becomes easier, and it becomes easier. There will be challenges. There will be people who dislike the real you.
Yeah.
And that's all right. Because think about it. You don't like everybody. Every single one of us, we can think of people who we dislike. That's all right. It's not about who dislikes you. It's about who likes you.
Definitely. And you've written a book about this, haven't you? I know, because you've written many books, haven't you? But you specifically, you've written a book about masks. And so tell us a bit about that book and how we can get hold of it.
Sure, yeah, it's very imaginatively titled "The Masks We Wear."
Loving it.
Yeah, and it goes into more detail about introducing your masks, releasing your masks, and life beyond your masks as well. So we explore what masks are, where they come from, why we wear them. It takes us through how can we start to remove those masks. I've lost the table of contents again. It's in here somewhere. We go through how we can start to remove those masks. It covers the question that we spoke about. Who were you before society told you who you should be? Covers various other things and steps and processes you can do as well. And it also looks at what life will be like once we have removed our masks. A question people often ask is, well, if I remove them, will they come back? Do you want them to come back? If you want them to come back, they'll come back. If you don't want them to come back, you're now much more aware of them. they're much less likely to come back. So yeah, it takes us on the journey from realizing that these things exist, understanding where they come from, how we can get rid of them, and building a life free from those masks. All the while
That,
realizing that there will be masks underneath those masks, and it's an ongoing process, but it's a lot of fun as well. And the more we release them, the more we get to really enjoy life, because we're now doing the things we really like with people who like doing those same things, and it becomes a lot more enjoyable.
loving that, loving that. So, how can people get hold of the book, Keith?
It's available in paperback. It's also available in ebook format, so you can get it from all the major online retailers: Amazon, Apple, Waterstones, all of the major ones, Barnes and Noble. Or you can get it direct from my website as well. And if you want, I'll even scribble my name on the inside of it if you really want.
Fabulous, fabulous. So we'll put a link to Keith's book in the show notes. So thank you so much for that, Keith. And so I'm coming to the part of the show which I ask all of my guests. As I'm a nurse and I'm very interested in health and well-being of the general population, but particularly interested as I become a business owner in the health and well-being of entrepreneurs and business owners. So I ask two questions. I ask how in your business, because you're busy, you're a writer, I know you've got a magazine, I know you work with people, it's very, very busy. How do you stay focused and positive and productive in your business? And the second question is, how do you look after your own health and well-being, Keith?
Two great questions, two really important questions. I mean, how do I stay focused and productive and upbeat in terms of work? I think part of it does come down to just making sure it's something that you enjoy doing. And if you're doing something you really hate, yeah, it's a whole lot harder. So make sure you're doing something that you enjoy doing. Um, Take control of your time. Remember that if you're not in control, somebody else is.
Mm-hmm.
So I make great use of to-do lists.
Oh, wow.
Not from the point of view of, oh my word, I've got 50 things on this list. Oh, how will I ever get them done today? It's
Uh-huh.
not that at
Uh-huh.
all. It's okay, these are the things I need to do. If something comes to me, it's like I'll write it down. Because what I find is if you don't write it down, that bit of your mind keeps going, yes, but Keith, this, come on, we've got to do this. When you write it down, that piece of your mind's going, oh, cool, I know it's going to get done. I can shut up about it now.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Mm-hmm.
becomes a whole lot less distracting. It makes it much easier to organize and plan your day. And if you get those occasions where it's like, oh, gosh, I've got a spare hour here that I didn't realize I was going to have. Let's have a look at the list. What's something I could do on there? That looks fun. I'll do that. So things like that. I make my calendar is a lifesaver. Everything goes in there. If people want to have meetings, I offer them a link where they can book into the calendar. It's no point asking me, are you going to be free next week? I've no idea. Ask the computer.
Mm-hmm.
It'll tell me.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean the computer's in control. I'm in control because I say how many appointments I can have each day. I say which days I'm available. But what it does mean is I don't have to be thinking about, oh, what am I doing next? My computer will tell me, my phone will tell me, my watch will say, hey, don't forget, you've got Dawn's podcast in an hour. Oh yeah, cool. No worries, I'll be there. So I know all of that stuff's under control. I don't have to waste time thinking about it, which means I can focus on doing the things I enjoy. I mean, that's right. Let's use tech to help us. There's even things like with social media. I know so many people go, oh, I've got all these emails coming in. Oh, I've got all these messages coming in through Facebook or whatever. Turn your notifications off. What? Turn your notifications off. Oh, but the message might come in and I might not read it for an hour. So
Wow.
what? Just turn the notification off. Who is in charge of whether you read it or not? Is it you or is it the app? Because if you're not in charge, the app is in charge. Turn your notifications off. Decide, you know what? I've got a half hour. I'm going to have a wee browse through the socials, see what's going on, catch up on the messages, and get back to doing my work. Take control. It becomes a whole lot easier. It's a lot less stressful as well because you don't get all these constant interruptions. You're not wondering, oh, what's happening? it makes it much easier to focus on what you're doing. And a great piece of advice that I heard for all business owners is don't do the things you don't like, do the things you do enjoy. So basically,
Yeah.
if there is aspects of your business that you don't like, but you know need to be done, find somebody who likes doing those and outsource it to them, or even take them on as a team member, so you can focus on doing the bits that you enjoy and that you're good at. For the second part, how do I look after my health? You notice I've got the obligatory. There's always a glass of water at my desk. Usually a nice mug of tea as well, just so I keep myself fully hydrated. I mentioned that I use tech to remind me of stuff. I've got a smartwatch which will remind me if I've been sat down for 50 minutes. It will remind me, hey,
Yes.
it's time to stand up and have a wee bit of a walk
Yes.
around. Oh, cool, yeah, I'll do that. Tracks all my my steps. I make sure I go for a nice walk each day. If I haven't done much walking, I'll take myself out and go for a walk. I mean, I hate things like the gym and those sorts of things. They do nothing for me. They stress me out. I hate every second of it. But I love walking. So I go out and have a nice stroll around somewhere. It means I'm getting exercise and getting some fresh air. Also, I find that's for me, it's a great time for thinking, because I just let my mind wander and come up with all sorts of ideas out there. Different things work for different. I know some people hate that, but they love the gym, in which case go for the gym. But it's about finding what works for you. Just little and often. It's all tracked by the by the tech, not to control me, but so that I know, oh, it's tracked. I can see how I'm doing. Oh, I seem to be slipping down here. I'm not moving so much. I just need to keep an eye on that. And even recently, I found an app which monitors all that and your heart and everything, and it works out how stressed you are and how much reserves you've got, and it sort of shows you a nice little graphic that's either a nice soothing bluey green, gentle, or bubbling away red and stuff flying out, which kind of telling you you're a bit stressed, you might want to chill down a bit. Oh, okay, cool. So yeah, I love using that just to, because sometimes we don't notice when we're getting more and more stressed until it boils over. Whereas things with like that app, it's sort of bubbling away. It's going, you should kind of cut down a bit, call it a day, maybe chill out. Why? What do you mean? I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Why are you telling me to chill out? Maybe you're right.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I love tech. I love tech.
Yeah.
I love tech in a helpful way, not in an overwhelming way. I think it can support and guide you and sort of like send you a message, And also, I like the fact, and I like that you alluded to that. What measures gets done, doesn't it? Really. So if you've got an inkling of where you're going, and you measure that, and I also like that. If you know when you are in a good place, then you will then know when you're not in a good place, won't you? So if you know what good looks like, for to use a management consultant analogy, you know what good looks like, then you also know when you're not good, and so that you can get yourself back on track. So I'm loving those tips, Keith. It's brilliant to talk to you. It's been so fab to talk to you today. I've really learned a lot actually, about the maths, where they come from and how we can deal with them. And we're coming to the end. I can't believe it. It's gone so quick. And I always like to close with like a tip or a nugget or an actionable share that we can give to the audience today. So what would you like to share with us today?
I'd like to share a sort of a thought, or some have almost called it a mantra, but a thought. So just leave you with this thought that whatever we're doing in life, change is always possible. And when you master your mind and master your mindset, you master your life.
Oh, I'm loving this. This is good stuff. Love that. Thank you so much, Keith. And it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much. And that is it for the Dawn Jarvis Show today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like, share, comment, subscribe, and we will see you soon. Take care. Bye.